welcoming in non-residential members and new folks. The teachers and seniors still continue to teach on face-to-face on Zoom and classes, many classes. And we're now offering in-person face-to-face. And for me, the huge impact of being together like this, even though everybody moved away from me over here, I feel really lonely. It's just so important to be present. And we have this need as human beings for physical connection. So I have been very appreciative of all of these opportunities and that we've had to participate. Now in the practice period, we have people from Brazil. We have T. Chorin, one of our ZCLA priests, and her group, and a new group joining our practice period from Germany. So we've become quite international through our Zooming capabilities. But again, for me, the in-person cannot be replaced. And for those of you, some of you cannot come here, not just because of distance, but other reasons. Zoom is wonderful, and I encourage you and really appreciate your practice as well. So, just sitting, diving deeply into our Zazen, not knowing, open, bearing witness. What's arising? And I don't mean to say this gotta sit stuff as a negative. I'm not saying that, or I am, maybe a little. But I really do want to encourage you and hope that you're realizing as you are moving through this session the importance of sitting hour after hour and day after day and feeling the deepening in your Zazen. So this Hakuin Eigaku, 1700s, Song of Zazen. He was very, very famous Rinzai Zen master. And all Rinzai masters derive their lineage from Hakuin. His first awakening, sitting in Zazen, he heard the distant temple bell. And it hit him like a strike of thunder. He said, "This is the biggest enlightenment experience anyone has had in 300 years. Well, so it said he was more humble than Dogen, who said it had been 500 years. So Hakuin then in his 20s went to a teacher to confirm his enlightenment experience, to be tested. Yes, he'd had a genuine enlightenment, no self. But his ego confiscated that experience. I think many of us have had that where you really drop away and then all of a sudden you go, wow, look at me. No self. And you have a whole conversation about it. So it's important to have that moment, though. It's really important to have that moment where you touch that. Where you touch that no self, even if it's just that moment. So this guy must have been a good teacher because he sent him off. And he said, "You are nothing but a cave-dwelling devil. Off you go. Go sit." So many years later, he was now in his 40s or so. He had his final Kensho experience. And again, it was through sound. He was reading the Lotus Sutra, and he heard the sound of a cricket. And he just wept. He fell apart. His ego, the self, fell apart. It dissolved. He was the sound of the cricket. So for Hakuin, awakening sounds became a central theme in his teachings. I believe he's attributed the one hand, what's the sound of one hand, and many others. And just to make a note, by the way, we have a Rinzai priest with us, Yo, and he's here for a few months, and he's been with us before, and then the pandemic hit, and he's now our assistant Tenzo and cat caretaker. So Hakuin says Zazen is the fundamental practice for Zen practitioners. Fundamental. Zazen. The method of all awakening. And this poem celebrates and encourages this fundamental practice, which we do individually and collectively. He came from a very humble background, and he actively invested in spreading his teaching to the laity and the illiterate. And I mention that because I just love that in these guys, that it didn't have to be a noble person, didn't have to be a monk special in a monastery. It was to all the people. And that touches me. Like the Buddha met, Shakyamuni Buddha met who was right in front of him. You didn't have to be special. And you were special. So the song of Zazen encourages the student to focus on the immediate experience of presence. Just right here. My legs are killing me. Right here. There are many virtues and practices within Zen tradition, he states, and Zazen contains all of them. A form that has no form. And we know this. We chant this in the Heart Sutra, which is the most predominant sutra of the Mahayana canon. The Heart Sutra is part of a much longer work called the Prajnaparamita Sutra, which is a conversation between Avalokitesvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, and Sariputra, who was one of Buddha's disciples. So the song is urging us to sit. That's it. We could just close up shop right now and sit. Be fine with me. But it begins, all beings by nature are Buddha. A question a teacher asked, what is the difference between sentient beings and Buddhas? It'd be interesting to hear all of your answers, but she answered, Buddhas know who they are. Sentient beings don't know they are Buddha. Do you believe you're Buddha? Or even the possibility that you can be. And I frankly don't know why we would be sitting here if we didn't have some little feeling about that. You know? This teacher shared this, and the story touched me. I wonder how often this happens. He said that this person told him, Shunryu Suzuki Roshi said that we must practice Zazen without any idea of gaining. Because of that, this guy decided that he couldn't practice at all, since his Zazen would be contaminated with gaining thoughts. How do we deal with this seemingly irresolvable bind of having these kinds of thoughts and aspirations arising regularly? Should we just avoid practicing as this person did? Well, I would say no. And so don't ask me that. Don't have expectations is what I will say to you, and have. All beings by nature are Buddha, as ice by nature is water. Apart from water, there is no ice. Apart from beings, no Buddha. It's a simple teaching to make clear that there's no difference between sentient beings and Buddhas. And yet, there are differences. And it's like we're all in one body. We're all Buddha nature right here, and we're all different. Just look at it. How sad that people ignore the near and search for truth afar, like someone in the midst of water crying out in thirst, like a child of a wealthy home wandering among the poor, looking for something that's right in front of me, searching for the truth far, as though the truth will be found outside of me. And many Mu students know that. What is it? What is Mu? It. Where is it? I hear that a lot. It's over there. Don't you see it? Maybe there. Maybe tomorrow, just like all my diets. They all start on Monday. And they end on Tuesday. Maybe tomorrow. I'm so thirsty. And I'm standing in water. We already are the water we are thirsting for. I think most of you have heard the story of the poor man, the homeless man lying in the streets, and a rich man walks by, and it breaks his heart. And he reaches in his pocket, pulls out a diamond, puts it in the poor man's pocket. Guy's passed out. Years later, of course, what he's got expectations, mind you. He thinks, I'll put this diamond in his pocket. He'll buy a house, have a family, and he'll live a great life. It's in his head. A few years later, he walks by and the guy's still lying there. And he goes, I don't understand. Years ago, I gave you a diamond. I put it in your pocket. How come you're still living on the streets? The man said, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, check your pocket. And there was the diamond. He just didn't know it was there. Just like us. Buddha nature. It's in your pocket. It's everywhere. That's the confounded. It's everywhere. Often we feel homeless, longing for our true home. I've heard people come in here before and say, oh, I found my home. What is their home? What did they find when they came through the gates and sat in the zendo? Many of them have gone. So many of them have stayed. Look at some of us here. And even the diamond has to be polished and worked on. And our Zazen helps us to polish. And, we often call that, what do we call it? Peeling the layers off. And of our concepts and our opinions. So we want to knock off the rough edges so the diamond shines freely. And we are the diamond. The home is here. I won't bother you with this, but I know how much of my life has been spent standing in the water thirsty, suffering. I'm just right here. So I'm encouraging all of us to drink the water. Don't waste your time. And be this diamond coming home. Dogen and Hakuin talk a lot about that. It's right here. It's here. You don't have to travel far. And yet they both did long pilgrimages. So do I trust what they say, really? Yeah, you can say that. You did, 6 years of traveling. But would they have realized it if they hadn't? It doesn't matter. We don't need to know. And regardless, for Dogen and Hakuin, it took many, many, many years of diligent practice in Zazen to come to realization, to awaken, and to bring that to us. So we can learn from them. And then we also need to learn there are no shortcuts in this practice. What did I say, Taikon? Just show up.
Show up.
All right. Can't leave the evening without saying that once. Where will you find the true self, your Buddha nature? Perhaps in each breath. Thank you, Geshe. Each step that you walk. The eye that sees and ears that hear. Hands and minds of function in daily lives. Chopping carrots, sweeping. We drop our ideas and fantasies about, everything, and our fears, and we simply sit quietly. Then we can find ourselves closer and closer to our true nature, to who we truly are. And when we realize ourselves in that way, we can truly serve others. That's our vows. Our Bodhisattva vows to serve. It's not about me. It often is. It's an unfortunate part. But really, to drop that. As Dogen says, we're like a river that flows. It flows into the ocean. The ocean receives the gifts of the world, including its trash. The ocean does not refuse any water. I had Roshi Gyoku put that on one of my rock suits. I just love that. Our mural. Dukkha, Roshi talked about. Is it things not going my way? Or it's all about not getting my way? Yeah. Dukkha's ego delusion, a sense of a separate self, we could say that simply. And, we just can't find the diamond in our pocket. But Hakuin is telling us in this poem that we can, through Zazen. He says, those who try Zazen even once wipe away immeasurable crimes. All the practices, devotion, repentance, all the practices in the 6 paramitas, perfections, they all have their source in Zazen. And they're all wiped away from the very first time we do Zazen. Where are all the dark paths then? The Pure Land itself is near. Those who hear this truth even once and listen with a grateful heart, treasuring it, revering it, gain blessings without end. Try Zazen and hear the truth. Your truth. Not my truth. Not Dogen's, but yours. I encourage you, when you realize you wander off, just keep coming back. Just keep coming back to the breath, to the present. You don't need to know why. Just do it. Just keep coming back. Every sitting period is your first Zazen, beginner's mind. Great attitude to carry into your to the zendo and into your cushion. Boundless and free is the sky of samadhi, bright, the full moon of wisdom. Truly, is anything missing now? Nirvana's here before your eyes. This very place is the lotus land. This very body, the body of the Buddha. We're even on the front lines of a war. If you watch TV, it's horrible what humans do to each other. And we see it live. How do we practice with that? How do we sit in this world as it is? As it is. We cry. We protest. We pray. We do zazen. We bear witness. Offer your zazen to the people of Ukraine, to all the people suffering in the world from other humans. So, in a way, you've heard this is what, the third talk. We're giving you all the answers. You've got all the answers. We've told you everything. Are you listening? We're telling you you're Buddha. Nirvana's here, right here. There's a way out of dukkha. Roshi Yoda told us the way out. But you must do the work for yourself. Exploring the subtle effects, and I'm sure for some dramatic, which arise during zazen, are infinitely more important than explaining why we do zazen or what you're going to gain if you do zazen. Just do it. Experience what arises. It's going to be different. We all have different conditioning, different parents. I had a terrible 3rd grade and 5th grade teacher. I'll never get over it. So what's the difficulty? We have the answers. You won't believe it until you first realize it, experience it, and then, and really only then, we can begin to manifest it in our daily life. Be curious. One guy was saying, think of yourself as a haunted house, and you have all these rooms that are terrifying. Go in them. Don't be afraid. Go be curious. You know, like a little kid, or like, I don't like horror films, but if I have to watch one, I'm like, oh my God. So go into these places. Get scared. See what happens. Oh, that one again. That room. Ah, open the door. Might be anger. Might be fear. Could be joy. Don't be afraid of that. Be curious and feel it. Step off the 100-foot pole. You know, there's so much of us that does not want to take risk or to feel vulnerable. Oh, it might be messy. And it probably will be for a while. What will I do without my drama? That was a big thing for me. I didn't want to let go of that. Don't gossip? Are you kidding me? Really? I suffered through a lot of that, questioning in my life. Do we really want to get to the place where we really want to let go? To trust, letting go. You got to get there first. You can't let go of something unless you can feel it, experience it. Trust. Trust this practice. Our Zazen practice is to close the gap between seeing and realizing who we really are and how we manifest it in our daily life. So we're practicing and trust that this practice will carry forward in your daily life. I wanted to live a life with integrity. I hadn't. I mean, I lived a shameful life for many, many years. And I wanted to change that. And I had to look at what that was. And I wanted to live a life with integrity. And that kept me going on this path. Dogen tells us, then it's practice and realization. Over and over, beginning again and again, that is Zazen. That is practice. We are already enlightened just as we are. If we continue to practice, we will eventually realize that each of us sitting here today, just as we are, pain in our legs, neurotic, messed up, joyful, confused, open, just as we are. We too are Buddha. How wonderful is that? Too simple. We still have a couple of days. Just keep going. Just show up. Offer your zazen to Ukraine, to the children, to the hungry, to the homeless, to yourself. Numberless beings,
I vow to serve them. Inexhaustible delusions, I vow to burn them. Boundless dharmas, I vow to practice them. Unsurpassable Buddha way, I vow to embody it. Numberless beings, I vow to serve them. Inexhaustible delusions, I vow to end them. Boundless dharmas, I vow to practice them. Unsurpassable Buddha way, I vow to embody it. Numberless beings, I vow to serve them. Inexhaustible delusions, I vow to end them. Boundless dharmas, I vow to practice them. Unsurpassable Buddha way, I vow to embody it.
seek